Off the Bench with Jacob Hester and Matt Flynn.
Okay, here we go.
Where the plays get broken down and science gets denied.
Hey, they said I gotta come off the bench.
Hour 2 of Off the Bench, live from the Raising Cane studio.
All right, welcome in. Hour number 2 here on a Wednesday edition of Off the Bench. Taylor Sharper with you, Alondra Villarreal, Braxton Rizzuto along for the ride as well. And in studio today, he was nice enough to come in, his weekly Wednesday segment, Dr. Stephen Etheredge. Doc, how are you?
Doing great.
You were telling us during the break about, like, we were talking about the whole COVID thing, about, like, you remember, like, the whole birthday thing. I was telling you, my brother actually graduated high school in 2020. Didn't have a prom. They had to do graduation on the football field in June in South Louisiana. Oh. And, I mean, he started college that screwed up his whole freshman year. Hurricane Ida hits, and that pushed back a year. Like, poor dude's been in school like 6 years because he didn't go basically his first 2.
It was such a crazy time. And I mean, how it affected so many things. And, you know, that was actually when I started doing a regular segment with Jake back then because of all the crazy COVID. Are we not? That was literally, we talked about it every week. The update on the COVID, you know, are we going to play football? Is this going to happen this year? How's the season going to look? What are the rules going to be like? And there were things like, you know, I remember on the sideline having to wear a mask and we're outside. And the thing that a lot of people don't realize is we're getting COVID tested multiple times throughout the week. We had to. That's part of the policy. And I'm like, can't we just put a little disclaimer on the bottom of the screen? You know, we're outdoors. I've had a COVID test literally today. Right. You know, I'm negative. Wear a mask here, but it was a crazy time.
Look, that's perfect. Let's just start there. We weren't even going to do this, but, like, how did that impact y'all, like, not just during game day, but, like, week to week, like, training room, anything like that? Like, I mean, it was probably so many precautions you could basically not do anything. Right?
It was very significant. I mean, it was just the money, you know. I don't remember the exact numbers, so I'll probably butcher it. But so one of the requirements had to get tested. The SEC had an independent company that would come in. We had to be tested 3 times a week, everybody that was on the travel roster. So I'd have to go up there like on a Tuesday and get swabbed and all this stuff. And that was what they had decided on. And I think just to do that, just in season, was over $500,000 just for the football team, just for testing. Forget all the other stuff. We had to take extra buses so we could be spread on the buses. We had to have extra rooms at the hotel. You know, I remember the first away game we had was at Vandy that year, and they had people at the front because they didn't want people's families to come in. So they had like security at the front because they didn't want family to come to the hotel. And as the season went on, you know, we got more and more loose with things, and things kind of sort of went back to normal. Really, it was never normal. Because I remember we played Florida at Florida at the end of the year. That was the shoe game was that year.
Right.
And I mean, that stadium was maybe half full, you know, and we played in like late December because we started late or mid-December. It was just, but there was a lot the day-to-day that just was very different. The staff had to wear masks. At least the players didn't. Originally, they talked about that, or we're going to make the players wear masks, and at least they didn't have to. So that was something, you know. I mean, it was crazy, though.
Olympics going on right now. And, you know, I know a little bit last week I talked about Lindsey Vonn. She suffered the break in the leg. Well, came out a couple days ago. It's actually a lot worse than originally projected. So try not to butcher this. She has something called a complex tibial fracture in her left leg. She had 4 surgeries in Italy. Just got back to the U.S. About to have a 5th surgery. I mean, it obviously sounds like a huge deal with 5 surgeries. What goes into that? I mean, can you recover fully from something like that?
I think yes, you can. I mean, all things relative. It's to say that it'll never affect her again. I think that's impossible. Right. You know, I think let's just be honest. And then you factor in that she's had multiple injuries. That she was already dealing with a knee injury, where she had a ligament injury, ACL of the knee already. You figure all these things out. You know, it's a big injury. You know, a lot of times you have to go in and you can only do so much at one time. You have a lot of swelling you have to account for. You try to stabilize the more important pieces first and then gradually kind of get yourself. But, you know, a complex fracture would indicate that you had multiple breaks. Typically what you're going to see is bone that's just shattered, and you got to try and align everything, put it back together. I think that, you know, one of the things she mentioned, she's got a X-Fix, which is an external fixator, which is one of the casings that you see. It's a metal, like almost like shield that goes around the leg on the outside of the skin, hence the X-Fix, and it holds everything in place. So you got to go take that off later, and it's just, I mean, realistically, I can't see that's not affecting her moving forward. I think best case scenario, she has a really good recovery, fairly normal life moving forward, can probably get back to skiing at her age and everything else going in. I don't know competitively, but obviously hope the best.
Right. I mean, she's 41. This was probably her last Olympics anyways. But I mean, like, everyday life, like, what does that look like for, like if you and I were to have that injury, like, what would it?
I think, like I said, you would feel it every day. Now in a best case scenario, could you get back to walking normal and everything? I think so. If all goes well and you rehab good, and she'll have the benefit of having a lot of resources, just to help her recovery. And I think she'll be able to get back. You'll probably have down the road more arthritic problems with the joints around that injury. So the ankle and the knee, the 2 joints on each end. It might be something that, you'll have some scarring and some muscular weakness and things like that chronically. So it's a pretty big deal for sure.
Moving from Olympics kind of over to the NFL, there's been a lot of off-season, like franchise tags this week, free agency's coming up, draft. One of the biggest players, Patrick Mahomes, I mean, there's updates on him constantly. He tore the ACL and LCL in December. He's already had his surgery, but he said his goal is to be ready for preseason. Now, he's Patrick Mahomes. He's not going to play in the preseason, but I mean, late December, could he be ready for early September 2026?
With today's surgery and rehab and the fact that he had it so quickly after, I would say yes, he could be. But okay. I mean, I also feel like that's lofty. I feel like that's if everything goes perfect, if his rehab goes well, if he didn't have a lot of swelling after surgery, if he's able. And again, kind of like we mentioned with Lindsey Vonn, they're going to have the resources. I mean, this guy's one of the best players in the world. I mean, some people say the best, and he's going to have every resource to help him get there, but everything's got to go perfect, really, I think, in my opinion, for that to happen. But it does. It's a possibility, especially, I don't think he's had any history of major. I think he had the patellar dislocation, kneecap dislocation, I think he had back around 5-6 years ago. I don't think he's had a lot of other injuries to that knee, big surgery, so that helps as well. There's not going to be as much scarring and old injury. So, but I mean, yeah, that's going to be the best case scenario, I think, is he's ready to go at the beginning of the year.
So recovery-wise, like, just for me watching from afar, I think the quickest I ever saw somebody was Adrian Peterson. He did it in, I think, 9 months. Actually, was in MVP considerations. He was really good, but that was only one ligament. He did it in 9 months. I mean, everything goes perfect. No setbacks, anything like that. What is the absolute quickest you would advise someone back out there?
I think that's probably about it. That 9-month mark is kind of 8-9 months is probably for an ACL injury what we normally expect on the short end. You might see or hear of a few rare exceptions. And again, getting back to a sport like football. But I tell people anywhere from that to about a year is kind of the normal range, and sometimes even a tad longer. And again, we've gotten better with the surgeries. We've gotten better with the rehab. We know the things to do. So again, the shorter end is more common than it used to be. It used to pretty much be a year. You could pretty much count on it. So I think we're getting better with it. But again, a multi-ligament, to your point with Mahomes, that adds a little bit to it.
Speaking of that, you hear the ACL so common, right? And you got the 4 ligaments, but the LCL, the PCL, you don't hear about them as much. Is it just strictly location? Are they stronger? Why the ACL so much more than the others? So
a couple reasons. One is location. The frequency with which the injuries happen, the mechanism with how you get there. You're going to see more ACLs. ACL and MCL seem to be the ones we see the most. LCL, PCL are less common. Sometimes don't require surgery if it's isolated to those ligaments too, kind of like the MCL as well. But if you talk about the ACL, you pretty much know it's going to be surgery if you tear the ACL. Whereas an LCL injury or PCL injury, even if you completely disrupt the PCL, there are guys playing in the NFL right now who don't have a PCL and they're able to rehab it. It's just not quite as important for that lateral motion. Now, sometimes if they have some other components or based on their anatomy, that may not be the case, but so it's not as critical. It's not always fixed. It's not as commonly injured. So it's a little bit of all the above.
Transitioning a little bit into baseball. I mean, baseball season fully underway, and any fan of a baseball team hates to hear, they got the elbow injury, right? The old UCL, because a lot of times you do see Tommy John surgery. So kind of a two-parter. First, how do you decide, is it heal on its own or is it Tommy John? And then why such a long recovery? Because, I mean, I feel like that injury, you mentioned, advances, ACL, you can get back a lot quicker than normal. It seems like any pitcher that's out is a year and a half minimum. What goes into the surgery and, why so long of a recovery?
So I guess the first part, when do we fix? When do we maybe treat it more conservatively? And typically the two things you're going to base that on are imaging. So we're going to get an MRI, especially these high-level pitchers. We want to know how big the injury is. And then in physical exam, are they unstable? So the ligament is the ligament on the inside of the elbow. It's the ulnar collateral ligament is the name of the ligament that's injured. We always talk about the Tommy John injury, but that's technically what it is. So Is it completely disrupted? Is a partial tear? Are they unstable? Is the elbow loose? How much pain are they having? All those are variables that go into it. Typically, if it's a full disruption, a full tear, we're going to repair that. That's going to be almost always. There's a few exceptions, I suppose. And I guess depends on the sport, too. If you're not a thrower, we may not worry about it. We've had, football players who are, defensive players or non-quarterbacks with the UCL. We just rehab them. And you're not as worried because, that's more of a traumatic injury that's not. You don't need the UCL to do just about everything in sports except for throw. So if you're a pitcher, if you're a quarterback, if you're a javelin thrower, you're going to prepare those. So I guess that's part of the discussion as well. What position do they play? Then if it's a big tear, you're going to go in. And unfortunately, it's kind of like the ACL where you historically have to reconstruct a whole new ligament. So you actually take a donor tendon, use the palmaris longus, which is one that's kind of an accessory ligament at the wrist, and you make a new ligament. Okay. Now, with advances now, there is also a procedure where you do what's called an internal brace, where sometimes you can repair the old ligament and then put some extra bracing with it, like a kind of almost an internal stitch or wire. Those are a little quicker. So if you've ever heard a guy, he had the internal brace, and you'll see why some guys do come back a little faster. So especially with a younger athlete, you might do that. You sometimes know you're going to have to go back down the road, though. If it's a pitcher and he keeps pitching, if you do that one, there's a good chance he may tear that one too, because it's not quite as sturdy historically. So there's a lot of variables, long story short. And you're right. It's one that we haven't gotten a lot faster, at least with the primary repair. And I think it's just because there's so much torque on that internal elbow when you're throwing that you just have to let that thing really heal in well.
Why pitchers, though, and not because it could happen in football, sure, but it is so much more common with a pitcher, it seems like, than a quarterback. I mean, is it just strictly the throwing motion?
100%, yeah. And in fact, even when you look at quarterbacks, most of the UCL injuries, quarterback for San Francisco injured his. Georgia, that was the injury that their guy had. I can't think of his name. The guys in Miami this past year, Beck.
Carson Beck, yeah.
Yeah, this injury he had. And if you look at both of their injuries, they were traumatic injuries. Their arm kind of got pulled behind them. And so it wasn't a throwing injury, but you still needed to throw. Whereas pitchers, there's so much torque that's put on that inside elbow with that pitching motion. That's why you don't see it a whole lot in position players either. It's mostly pitchers. It's just the velocity, the torque, the stress you put on that medial elbow over and over. With pitching, it's more that repetitive wear and tear. Whereas if you look at most quarterbacks, it was more traumatic. It was something happened, like they got tackled funny or hit funny when they were throwing or something.
So I was looking at the Major League spring training, it's coming up and everything. 3 different players. I had never heard of this injury. And there's so much crap in your hand, that the average person doesn't know about. They have all suffered a broken hamate bone in their hands. What is that?
So if you think about it, you have your carpal bones in the hand. So if you ever look at a X-ray or a skeleton, you have the long bones in your forearm that come down and form the wrist. And then you have these small little bones that are kind of between those long bones in the wrist and the long bones in the hand. Those are all your carpal bones, of which one of them is the hamate. It is one that you'll see injured a lot in sports, different mechanisms. You'll see it in throwers. You'll see it a lot in golf when people sometimes kind of, if they come up short and they kind of hit the ground with the club, sometimes you'll see that injury. That's one of the kind of classic textbook questions we see. So it's one of those small bones. You have 2 rows of those small carpal bones, and pretty commonly injured. It's one of the more common ones. We see that one, and they can be anything from just a mild, hey, you got to rehab it, brace it, to sometimes we got to go in and fix some of those, depending on which one and where it is.
Going back to knees real quick before we break, anytime there's a knee injury, everybody fears the ACL, but I hear hyperextension all the time, and I'm not quite sure what that incurs. What does that involve?
So hyperextension is, when you straighten your knee, that's extending it. Right. When you bend it back, that's flexing it. So if you are fully extended, and then sort of if you think about if the knee goes backwards a little bit, that's hyperextension. Sometimes you can tear something with that, including the ACL. Sometimes it will tear. Now, a lot of times what you're hoping for is just a bone contusion where the 2 ends of the bones hit together, bruise each other. That's your best case scenario with that injury. You can tear structures inside the knee, unfortunately, with a hyperextension injury. I think Willis McGahee is the one I always close my eyes and see. He had a foot planted, a guy hit the front of the knee, caused that hyperextension. So that's one I think of just, back in the day when I was younger, and some people probably don't know who he is, but so yeah, that's based the mechanism. It overextends.
All right. Well, Dr. Stephen Etheredge, wealth of information here, and hopefully we'll try to figure out this whole leap year thing. Doc even pointed out that it's more than 365 days in a year. It's like 365.2. So he even knows a little bit about the months as well. Thanks for coming in today, Doc.
My pleasure.
All right, we'll take a quick timeout. On the other side, we'll be joined by LSU beach volleyball coach Russell Brock for a quick segment. Their season begins on Friday. We're talking about it next here on Off the Bench.
Off the Bench.
Somebody that will never blow a lead, that is Tommy. Windows, doors, and siding. GoTommys.com. GEAUX. Tommys with a Y.com is the website. You will clearly see the difference when you work with Tommy and the team. They're not going to blow a lead. They're just going to win awards because that's what they do. They stack banners. They stack awards
every year,
every single year, bud.
They don't
not every 4 years.
They don't spread the trophies for every company?
No, they don't.
They
would never let Canada make a comeback either. Go to GoTommys.com.
All right, GoTommys.com. They are the best windows, doors, siding. We're talking about hardy plank siding. I'm a vinyl windows, siding, whatever it is. They're amazing. Just talk to them about your project. If you're building a new house, if you're renovating, maybe you just want to do a little upgrade on your doors or change them. You got some rotted windows, rotted doors, whatever it is. Anything they install, lifetime warranty, the best in the business. That's why they win awards every single year. GoTommys.com.
It's Friday after 5. I got here just in time. Went ahead and with a line before I went
Off the Bench, presented by Hood Dental.
But the bobbers in the pond going up, down, up, down, up, down. Tonight we're gonna raise a whole lot more than Kane, 'cause there's money in the bank, and tomorrow's Saturday, so if they pass.
Welcome back in. Wednesday edition of Off the Bench. Taylor Sharp here with you, filling in for Jacob Hester and Matt Flynn, Alondra Villarreal, Braxton Rizzuto here as well. Right now, we'll go out to the phone lines. LSU beach volleyball coach Russell Brock joins us this morning. Coach Brock, how are you?
Couldn't be better on this Wednesday morning.
Great to hear it. Last time you joined me, it was before you guys got out there to the NCAA championships in Gulf Shores. I know it didn't go the way you guys wanted to, but first off, congratulations on making it that far. I know you guys fell to Cal Poly out there, but Coach, you come into the season ranked number 12, and I know you guys have turned into one of the top volleyball programs in the country, but how do you handle those expectations year in and year out?
Yeah, the funny thing about that is, 12 is, as low as we've been in a while. Mm-hmm. So, our expectations clearly are higher than, the people who are out there casting votes. So I think the pressure from within to be great. And honestly, that comes from being a part of, an athletic department, particularly a sport that plays in the spring that sees greatness all around us. Like this, that's the expectation, and that's the reality. Like, we know that we're in a position with the talent, with the training, with the facilities, with the support, with just the positive peer pressure that comes from being a spring sport at LSU, that you're going to be one of the top teams in the country.
You got a lot of returners. I mean, I think it's something like 11 returners from last year's team. Now you got a good bit of freshmen coming in as well, but you guys get started, and you did it last year, doing it this year, like starting away from home. And I realize you're not going far. You're going down there to New Orleans, but is it good to have a lot of veterans on the team, kind of rely on that experience early on, like when you're starting away from home?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, every year is a little bit different with the makeup of the roster. And this is probably, one of the most returners we've had since back in 2021, where we had a bunch of people coming back because of COVID. But it's also, half of our roster is people in their first or second year of competition. So we've got a great balance of being young and being old. And I think that brings, a level of expectation and an understanding from those older kids, but there's excitement and there's energy from the younger ones. And it's a really good balance. It's been great for our training. Everybody's pushing each other. And then obviously heading into the first weekend, I think there's probably going to be some people who are a little more comfortable and some people who, have a little more, jitters. And it's great to have a good group of kids that can help people settle in and play the way we've been playing in practice.
Coach, whether it's Skylar Martin, Tatum Finlayson, Cameron Chantelier, you got a lot of returners, but who are some of the big name players maybe people keep an eye on early in the season? Like, who are you going to rely on to get this thing started?
Yeah, I think we've got, a couple of those that you mentioned obviously are huge for us. Julia Strucker is another one that was a freshman last year, and she's made huge strides to be better, more experienced, really talented this year. We expect her to do really great things. Aubrey O'Gorman is a senior who's kind of on her last legs as far as her eligibility, and she's played some pivotal roles for us in the last 2 seasons. And then, Kate Baker is another one that's been in the lineup, has some huge wins. She and Tatum pulled out a massive win against USC at home last year. So those are the kids that, are returning, who are experienced and who've won big matches for us in the past few years that we expect to do it again.
I saw that you guys recently added 2 transfers, Emily Helmuth, Zayna Meyer. What do you expect from them? Because they have college experience, but year 1 here in Baton Rouge, you guys are ranked 12th. You talked about it. You're highly ranked every year. What do you expect from them year 1 here?
One thing that we expect from them that they've delivered enormously for us is just the leadership and the culture that they've added, coming from storied programs on the indoor side and having a lot of success. Obviously, Emily coming off a national championship. I mean, the things that they're able to say, the credibility that they have when they, even as newbies to our sport, drive high expectations around them, and they have high expectations for themselves. So I think the biggest thing they've done so far is they brought in 2 blockers that we needed in our training, and they've grown in leaps and bounds. It's crazy to see how fast that they've grown, and there's no doubt that they're going to play a pivotal role for us this season.
Well, Coach, you were just that's actually perfect. You were just talking about kind of being a newbie to the sport, going from indoor to beach. What does a typical transition look like? I mean, how much different is that? Like for the average person that may not know that much beach volleyball versus regular. What does a normal learning curve look like for someone that's making that transition?
Yeah, I think it's significantly more challenging than people would expect. If you look at the sports on the surface, and they look like they're the same thing. I mean, it's you bump, you set, you spike, you serve, you have a blocker, you have people passing and defending. But it really is the way that your body has to adapt to the surface and has to adapt to the just conditions, the sun, the sand, the wind. It really does. The court size is smaller. You have to be well-rounded. You can't just do certain skills. And typically indoor players that come off, they're pretty refined in the skill set that they need to be great at. And then there's another skill set that they really don't even have to master because somebody else is going to do that for them. And so when you step into the sand and you've got to do it all, and you have to do it all excellently, that's a lot of pressure. And then to do it on a surface that is completely foreign to your body, just teaching your body how to jump and move on a surface that is not solid like you've done for your entire life, it's really challenging. And typically that process is a lot of frustration initially. And then as your body starts to catch on and your skill set starts to build, you really hit a pretty quick ascent. But you have to survive until that kind of turning point. And so they've done a great job of really grinding in that first initial phase, and super proud of them for that.
LSU Beach volleyball coach Russell Brock, our guest right now. Coach, I understand it's not a ton of travel involved for you guys going out to New Orleans, but I mean, what does a typical week look like for you guys going away from home? I mean, you play a ton of games, and it will be on the road. What does a typical week look like for you?
Yeah, well, thankfully, Mardi Gras was this past weekend and not this coming weekend. Right. And there'd be a lot more distractions heading down that way. But, we're going to head out tomorrow, and we'll get down there and we'll train in that facility. And then it's a business trip. It's not far from home, but one of the reasons why we go down there and we stay because we don't want to have any distractions to keep us from really being focused that opening weekend. And it's a great opportunity to do that without having to hop on a plane and travel, to the west or the East Coast. And so it's a really good way to start. We can have a lot of fans that are going to make that trip, or even families that live in that area. And so we expect to, have all the benefits of playing close to home, but also all the challenges of being on the road and not sleeping in your own bed and eating meals out, and also the benefit of just being tight-knit with just us. We're all together all the time, and that's where our strength comes from, is our ability to be unified and be great together.
Coach, one more for you before I get you out of here. You were actually just talking about, we go on the road, we practice in the other team's facilities. Speaking of facilities, I had you on once last year in the spring, and I had made it out to the beach volleyball facility for my first time being out there, and I was blown away. I mean, how does your facility right here in Baton Rouge compare to some of those other programs?
I tell you, really, if the only facility for beach volleyball in the country that you ever go to is LSU's, then you're going to have your expectation for everybody else is going to be ruined. We are so blessed and fortunate to have Death Volley, our space on campus with bleachers and shade and great music and food and drink and big scoreboard and lights. All those things are a premium. And thankfully, when the program was started, tennis had just moved out. And so that shell was sitting there just waiting for us. So, if you come out, you're going to be spoiled as far as what beach volleyball fans can experience. And pretty much everywhere else that we go and play has, maybe one or two of those aspects, but none of them have all of that sort of experience for fans or for the teams to train and kind of live in. And we owe a lot to this community and to our athletic department for being willing to set us up in a facility like that.
Coach, basically what I just heard is everybody needs to come play at LSU because we're the best at everything. That's what I got from that. Coach, thank you so much for your time today. Again, your season gets started this Friday, the Green Wave Invitational. Then you're back on your home court next week for the Tiger Beach Challenge. Coach, thanks for your time today and good luck this upcoming season.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity, and go Tigers.
Absolutely. Go Tigers. All right. We'll take a quick timeout. When we get back, me and Alondra, we'll kind of throw out maybe some position players to watch tonight. We talked pitching earlier, opportunity for a lot of guys that didn't throw over the weekend to get some action today, this afternoon against Nicholls. We'll kind of toss around maybe some guys in the field we might want to see. That's coming up next here on Off the Bench.
Off the Bench.
Go to Bally's, Baton Rouge Casino and Hotel, the brand new star of downtown Baton Rouge. It is brand new. And sure, like the outside of the building somewhat might be the same, but that's the only thing that is the same. When you walk in, you'll be blown away. They have got Vegas-style gaming all over the place. Right when you walk in on the casino floor, they've got new slot machines. They have got a brand new DraftKings Sportsbook with an incredible bar that butts up to this biggest TV I think you've ever seen in your life. They've got a brand new hotel. Every room got an upgrade. Everything got an upgrade. Go check it out. Bally's Baton Rouge Casino and Hotel.
That's right. It is Friday. It is the weekend. Friday. If you're looking for something to do, if you're in Baton Rouge, the Baton Rouge area, looking for something to do with your friends, with your spouse, whatever it is, a little date night, go to Bally's of Baton Rouge. Baton Rouge, you got an upgrade, 25,000 square foot gaming facility, beautiful hotel and restaurants right there. Bally's of Baton Rouge.
Off the Bench, presented by Hood Dental.
All right, go to rouses.com, go see our friends, and, which location do you go see them at? Well, you got to find out. You got to go to the website and see which one is nearest you. And then once you find that out, we always talk about it, man. They've got incredible deals going on at your local store, and you're going to be able to see them in that weekly ad right there on the homepage. Now, we always encourage you, go walk in. You'll be blown away right when you walk in. All the things that make Rouse's great. You're going to be welcomed by king cakes and all these things that are so Louisiana, right? And they are so local. They're going to have their own stuff there. But when we say Louisiana, they're in more than just Louisiana. Across the Gulf Coast. We just went to one in Mobile, Alabama a couple of weeks ago when we were down there for the Senior Bowl. So, again, find that location nearest you. How do you do that? You go to rouses.com.
Yeah, Rouses.com. Get ready for the tailgating weekend, baby. Do it local. A local grocery store. Go check out your nearest local Rouses.
All right, welcome back in. Wednesday edition of OTB. Taylor Sharp here with you. Alondra Villarreal, Braxton Rizzuto. Your LSU Tigers will take on the Nicholls State Colonels in Alec Box at about 1 o'clock this afternoon, a little bit earlier of a game as far as midweeks go. And earlier in the show, we broke down who could potentially start at pitching. Alondra and myself have both kind of thrown our hats into the ring for Cooper Williams. But look, there's a number of options. Zion Theopolis is an option. Danny Lockenmeyer, we'll see him in some capacity. Connor Bench has yet to pitch. Like, you're going to see a lot of guys that you did not see in the opening weekend, but that kind of rings true to the field as well, not just on the mound. And I wanted to kind of, real quick look at maybe some position players to watch here against Nicholls, because, again, I think this is a team that LSU can have a lot of success against, a lot of valuable in-game reps for some players that maybe necessarily did not get in there a ton over the weekend. Now, the first name I'm going to mention is Mason Braun, and I know what you're thinking. Yes, he played a ton over the weekend, but he didn't play a ton in the field. He was your DH over the weekend, and he was great in that spot. I would just really like to see what he's got defensively. We've seen the performance at the plate. Remember, this guy was the #1 first baseman in high school last season. Now, Zach York has that spot right now, but look, Mason Braun, he's a guy that can maybe make some things happen for you. He's also listed as outfield as well. He played there a little bit in some of the fall scrimmages. You have your outfield depth. Like, you know your starters. Derek Curiel, Chris Stanfield when he's healthy, and Jake Brown. Those are going to be your 3 starters, some combination of those guys. Behind them, though, it's a little bit of a question mark. To me, Mason Braun could fill one of those roles if given the opportunity. Look, there's so many guys to mention. Alondra, I'll come to you real quick. Like, whether it's somebody that hasn't gotten at bat, somebody in the field, like who's somebody for Nicholls you're like, want to see what that guy's got?
I'd like to see a little more of Omar Cerno behind the plate and see what he looks like back there. Because Jay, if you've noticed, likes to kind of like match up the catchers with the pitchers. He did it with Paul Skeens. He gave him like the little, it was usually Travinsky because he was taller.
I think Aaron Beatty did it with Ianson or something.
So he kind of likes to match up the catchers with the pitchers. So I would like to see a little more from Omar Cerno. I know Kate Aaron Beatty has definitely made a leap this season from last season behind the plate and at the plate. But what we saw from Omar when he was in the DH, I know he didn't do too well Sunday, but I think it was either Friday or Saturday that he looked good at the plate. So I would like to see a little bit more out of him. I agree that Mason Braun, I do want to see him, but he can play in the outfield.
Right.
So I don't know.
I think I'd actually prefer him in the outfield just because you don't have any proven depth behind your top 3 guys. Yeah. Your body's there, but what about Daniel Harden? Like, he's a guy that a lot of people haven't really talked about, but he comes from McLennan Community College out in Waco. He had 354 last year on the community college level. 16 doubles, 3 triples, 12 homers. The guy had 59 RBIs. Again, that's a guy that could give you depth in the outfield. He got in there Sunday. He didn't get a hit, but he did draw a walk and score a run. Like, that's a guy, maybe get his feet wet a little bit against Nicholls.
If Chris Stanfield's not going to play, then maybe we can see Mason Braun and maybe we can see someone like Daniel Harden, which – yeah, he's intriguing.
Yeah, he's a guy that, was kind of a little bit under the radar, but, and I get it. I know it's the community college level. He's coming up in competition, but he's proven on the college level more than a lot of these high school guys. The guy I really want to see get some extended outing. Our guy that was on the wrong side of the motorboat celebration, Mr. John Pearson.
I love that celebration.
Oh, my God, it was so incredible. I saw a post yesterday, and it kind of summed up this state perfectly. It said, Louisiana sports and Louisiana sports fans really don't care what other people think about
at all.
And I was like, no.
At all.
Okay, was that the first home run celebration or the second?
I think it was the second because Zach York hit one.
In between them?
Because wasn't it Jake Brown that did it?
It was Jake Brown that did the celebration.
So Zach had, I think, the first home run, didn't he?
Well, Jake had 2 that night.
No, I know, but I think Zach hit it before, so I think that was the second celebration. I don't remember, but it was hilarious.
It was elite, unexpected.
I love it.
Kind of subtle as you could be.
Right.
But also, everybody kind of knew what was going on.
It was so good.
Look, John Pearson, he's a guy that last year he played in 27 games. He batted .238 on the year. He had a double. He had 2 home runs, 7 RBI. Now, he can play third base. That's kind of what he was listed at last year, but he a little bit of outfield as well. So that's a guy a lot like a Mason Braun, can play infield, can play outfield. Got a pinch hit. Got in as a pinch hitter multiple games over the weekend. He did come away with 1 hit in those at-bats. So You've seen a little bit from him over the weekend. You've seen, again, a lot more from him last year. He played in 27 games, but John Peterson could take that next step. Pearson?
Yeah.
John Pearson. If John Pearson could take that next step, I mean, I think Trent Carraway's got third locked down, but if you have to mix and match them, you can. I mean, we saw Carraway play a little bit of second base. You saw his versatility. John Pearson just provides you with more depth, outfield, infield. Like we talk about the depth of the pitching staff. The depth of the infield is there. You just need to get these guys some reps. Like Jack Ruckert and Ethan Klaus. We talked about them on Monday. They both got there in extended time on Sunday. It was in the middle of the infield. I think they're both interchangeable. Like Ethan Klaus was a highly recruited shortstop a year ago in high school. He played second on Sunday. They had Jack Ruckert in there at shortstop. Well, Jack Ruckert on Monday against Kent State, he got a little bit of action at second base. Those guys are interchangeable. Like the depth of this team, the versatility of these players, I like it. Now, I'll ask you this, Alondra. We didn't see Curiel starting the season in leadoff. They switched it Saturday, Sunday, Monday. He's been there. Jay does like to tinker with the lineup. In a game like this, early in the season, midweek game against an in-state opponent, how much tinkering do you think we're going to see tonight? Like as far as, or I guess this afternoon, as far as like who's in what order? I mean, I think the normal guys will get the start, but like where are they going to be?
I think in terms of the lineup, I don't think you'll see too much changing just because it's been working so well lately. Maybe some here and there, but yeah, he does like to tinker, but I think it's working so well that I'm not sure how much of it you'll see moved around.
To me, this is a game where like you mentioned Omar Cerna. I would love to see Omar Cerna in this game. I feel like this is a game Cade will get the start, play maybe like the first 2 innings, Omar Cerna the rest of the way. Like the way Aaron Beatty's hitting the ball, I mean, he could use a day off. He's caught a lot of baseballs. I mean, you played 4 games in 4 days. This will be your 5th game over a 6-day period. Our guy Aaron Beatty needs a little bit of rest. I think you're going to see an extended outing from Omar Cerna. I think you'll see Mason Braun in some capacity. Me and Alondra both talking about him, whether he fills in at first. If they do decide to pull Zach York at some point in this game, does he fill in the outfield? Stanfield's still dealing with that injury. John Pearson, a guy we saw last year in 27 games a year ago. That was a talented squad a year ago, and I get most of them were midweek. They were non-con games, but Jay trusted him enough to put him out there as a freshman. You got to expect a year under his belt in this program. Jay probably trusts him even more, so that's a guy to watch as well. And then, again, kind of going back to the pitchers before we break here, the guys who did not throw over the weekend, freshmen Reagan Ricken and Zion Theopolis did not throw a single pitch over the weekend. They are candidates to start this game. My preference, Alondra's preference, Cooper Williams for maybe like an inning or 2. I mean, he threw 2 2/3 innings over the weekend. 1 hit, 1 run, 5 Ks, no walks. Pretty good. Want to see what he's got as a starter because whether it's a Case and Evans, whether it's a William Schmidt, that weekend rotation may not be set in stone. You also have Connor Benj. You haven't seen him. I think you'll see him in some capacity. Lockenmeyer. Can Santiago Garcia and Zach Cowan get in there and kind of get their confidence back after a tough first outing over the weekend? A lot of things to keep an eye on. Again, LSU versus Nicholls in the box, 1 p.m. this afternoon. We will take a quick timeout. Coming back, we'll wrap up hour number 2 here on a Wednesday edition of Off the Bench, brought to you by Hood Dental.
Off the Bench.
All right, go to trashrangers.com. Trashrangers.com. One of the cool things they always have, like if it is a big holiday like the 4th of July, like when you went on the other day, like it had, hey, here's the update. Here's when we're going to pick up your trash, just so you know every detail. And I'm sure, look, you'll get that sent to your phone as well because you know they're going to send text reminders, put your trash out. I mean, they take all the hassle out of everything, right? So go to the website, sign up today. If you're one of the lucky ones that's able to do that for residential service, you can always sign up for that commercial service. Roll-off dumpsters, 3 sizes to choose from. Give them a call and make sure you've got the right one on your project. That is trashrangers.com.
Yeah, you got a 4th of July party, just had it. You got anything. Got a bunch of people over. You got a lot of trash. Got to throw it away. You want reliable. You want hassle-free. You want a company that cares about taking care of your house, your business, your residence, wherever it is. Give them a call today or go visit them, trashrangers.com.
One more Given this town lots to talk about.
Off the Bench, presented by Hood Dental.
They don't know. People say.
Well, speaking of diving in, would
Head
you like
first.
to dive into a Russell pool? Because when you see what they can do for you, you'll be blown away. I mean, they're going to make the pool of your dreams. In fact, that's their tagline because they know it is factual. Let's build your dream pool. And what better time to get that process started than right now, because you are going to enjoy it year long. This is Louisiana. It is always pool season here in Louisiana, but this is truly a one-stop shop. We're talking about construction, maintenance, retail, all of that you handle with one company. That company is Russell Pool Company, and you can trust them. We trust them. Everybody they build pools for trust them. LSU, the Tigers trust them as well.
Yeah, let them build your dream pool. They can do everything from design to landscape architect to financing options. They can do it all. When you think of quality pools, you think of Russell Pools. RussellPools.com.
Welcome back in. Final segment, hour number 2 here on a Wednesday edition of Off the Bench. Taylor Show up here with you. Alondra Villarreal, Braxton Rizzuto on this Wednesday, brought to you by Hood Dental. Why do people hate Nate Yeske still? I'm reading comments in the chat.
I truly can't tell if they're trolling or being for real.
I just keep seeing.
I feel like one of them is being for real.
I keep seeing early season Yeske sucks. Like when Yeske was hired, it was considered a home run hire. And Alondra, all Nate Yeske's done has had the staff lead the SEC in strikeouts his first 2 years. And they win a national championship last year. What more do they need to do?
He also is really good at Oregon State.
Yeah.
He's won multiple,
He's been in multiple College World Series.
I don't.
I mean, what am I missing?
Everybody knows I've been the biggest Nate Yeske supporter and defender since he got on campus. Even when everybody turned on him, what was it? Year before last?
Yeah, it was his first year.
I was taking bullets for him. I was like, get behind me, Nate.
I mean, I don't really understand what else the guy has to do. You've led the SEC in strikeouts as a staff both years he's been here. You won a national championship last year. If you guys don't remember those games, it was thanks in large part to your two dominant pitchers, Cade Anderson and Anthony Ianson. And then you did a really good job week 1. I don't really understand what I'm missing here in terms of all the Nate Yeske hate, but whatever. Maybe some people
That's
just.
what I'm saying. I can't tell. I feel
they're
like
also
maybe they're
saying
trolling.
fire Mulkey. Yeah, that's not.
I mean,
That's a troll.
that's a troll. But I mean, look, you hear it a lot. It's not just here. You've heard it for 2 years. It baffles me. This topic, Alondra, I saw it last night, and as you written all over it. This is something I could see you doing a deep dive in.
Okay.
Okay, IMG Academy in Florida. Football power. Everybody goes there throughout the country to go there and train.
I feel like I saw something about this.
IMG has agreed to pay a $1.7 million settlement for accepting tuition from 2 students with ties to the Mexican drug cartel.
Okay, I did see this.
So
why does this have me written all over it?
Because you love a good internet rabbit hole. I mean, you love
that feels problematic.
There has to be more to the surface than what we're seeing. So basically, over 5 consecutive years, IMG Academy repeatedly the number of transactions with 2 individuals who have ties to this drug cartel organization. According to IMG Academy's continued tuition payments for the 2 students resulted in 89 violations for counter-narcotic sanctions, and they got to pay $1.7 million. Not something I thought I would see. I mean, was this intentional? Was it not intentional? I don't know, but
I'll definitely read more about it.
Yeah,
see what
I saw it last night. It looks like the 2 students were enrolled from 2018 to 2022. So it had been a few years now, but yeah, $1.7 million for accepting tuition from a drug cartel.
Yeah.
One of the tuitions, it was $98,000 for one student and $102,000 for the other. It was provided money and services from the drug cartel. And if you're thinking that's a lot of money, IMG is like if you've ever seen their athletic facilities, it's incredible. So $98,000 from one student, $102,000 from the other. The names of the students haven't been released. I don't know which sport this is for. If it's for a sport, I mean, it's IMG, so I would imagine that it is.
Soccer.
Um,
Sorry. Soccer or baseball?
It might be soccer or baseball. We'll find out. But yeah, that came out, came down the wire last night. New York Post has it. Everybody has it.
Pro tip: if you like, for people that want to go down rabbit holes, you gotta go to like Reddit or Facebook groups, because that's where you get firsthand accounts from like people that like went to the school, know the people that are involved. That's how you go down the rabbit hole.
Have you ever seen the Netflix
You gotta get
thing?
with the people that know, like, you gotta get with the people that know the people, or like are in the school or work for the school.
You need somebody in the know.
Yeah.
Some inside.
Yeah, you need insider information.
Have you ever seen the cat thing on Netflix? I think it's like literally called like "Don't F with Cats" or whatever.
Oh, I haven't seen it, but I've heard about what it is.
You would love it.
No, I would not.
It's
no, I would not. The thing that people describe it to me is like a guy's just killing.
Well,
cats.
they don't show any of it, but
Ew.
I mean, it's the way they find this guy though. It starts as like a Facebook group. Kind of one person saw the video, it goes to the next. They start a Facebook group and they like track down this guy to another country.
Yeah.
And like find him, he gets arrested. Like the whole thing is fascinating, and it's because they joined like a Facebook and Reddit group to figure this guy out.
That's where you get the firsthand accounts.
And they found somebody who like knew who he was or something like that.
Do you remember real fast? Do you remember like a couple weeks ago there was a teacher in like West Virginia or Virginia or something like that, and they were looking for him and they couldn't find him.
Yeah.
And like he was out in the forest, so you gotta go on the Facebook groups.
Okay.
The people that know the people.
Wild ending to hour 2 of today's show. We'll have hour 3 coming up next here on Off the Bench.
Off the Bench.